In today's video, we're going to discuss the OspreySync app. We're going to be using the Osprey Point of Sale app to illustrate this, but the app functions fundamentally the same for OspreyMobile, serving the same purposes and, as I said, working the same. In prior versions of OspreyPOS 11.499 and prior, a copy of OpenEdge was always required to be installed in the client, generally what we would call personal database. What this allowed for was for the point of sale to continue to run if the server connectivity was lost. The database on the register kept a partial replica of what was on the server. By partial replica, we're talking about tables such as items, departments, employees, etc. It did not maintain local copies of the historical totals, for example. The upside to this is obviously, again, we could run in a disconnected state for most of our functionality if need be. The single biggest downside was from an installation and support perspective. OpenEdge had to be installed, which took time. And then from a support perspective, that was an additional piece that could break, etc. Not that it very often happened, but on occasions it could. And then from updates, you actually had to touch each terminal each time there was an update and update them. By moving away from this model and going to a disconnected model utilizing the SQLite databases on the register, Osprey's been able to get away from this. We're able to utilize the web client similar to the way we've used it for our host clients and previously POS back office clients and also the OspreyMobile. This allows for a far easier installation experience as the installer is able to install all the prerequisites, the web client, and the app all on its own. It allows obviously then for a much easier update experience. The server needs to be updated only. The clients, be they POS clients, back office clients, or mobile clients, will be able to be updated themselves when they're started up, etc. So that's more or less the rationale behind this. What we've done, which is different from 11.499 in mobile, which also utilized SQLite, is we've written a sync program. The sync program, there's one for point of sale, there's one for mobile. So if you were to have both on a machine, which is normally not a normal configuration, but perhaps in a support environment, you'll actually have two separate sync apps, one for each app. As I said, we're demonstrating point of sale here, so that's the one we'll see. The app itself, once it's started, will exist down in your system tray, as you can see down here. If I hover over it, we have Osprey Point of Sale DB Sync Manager. If this was the mobile one, it would be Osprey Mobile DB Sync Manager. This will be running in the background, checking periodically for changes on the server to pull down, just like what we would call local mode updates on 11.499 and prior. It will also serve the function of sending transactional information up from the register to the server. As you can see right there, you just saw the icon briefly change. That was it checking for updates. General day-to-day operation, you don't need to touch this. It will just run and run and run and run. It can be set to auto start by dropping it in the startup folder of a user that's always going to be logged on. However, after the initial installation and configuration, there's no necessarily need to do that. Is if the app is started and the sync manager is not running, it will automatically start it. If you needed to stop it, you can right click on it and choose quit, and that will exit out of it. Normally this would only be recommended for support purposes, as generally you would want the sync manager running so your transactions are flowing up and your updates are flowing down. As we briefly touched on in the video, for the installation of Osprey Point of Sale, if we go out and look in our Osprey folder, so let's browse out to the C drive, our ORS folder, and in this case, Point of Sale, you'll note we no longer have the POS and Hislog database files. Those are no longer required on the client. What you will have is a databases folder, and if we drill down in there, you'll see that we have multiple SQLite databases. This is where our information is stored coming and going, and this is what the sync manager maintains. Again, these should never really need to be touched, but this is where they're located. If something were to happen to these databases, the sync manager can recreate them, but again, there's no real good reason to ever do anything with them unless directed to by your reseller support or Osprey technical support. The same databases would occur for OspreyMobile as well. So that's the long and the short of OspreySync. Thank you for your time and have a good day.